Picture this, it's 9 p.m. You've already survived 6 hours of classes, 4 hours of labs, annoying group project members, terrible mess food, and now you finally reach your room. Your bed is right there, waiting for you. But you have a midterm tomorrow and you haven't studied. Now, here's the interesting part. At this exact moment, 90% of the students make the same decision. They sleep. And honestly, I don't blame them because studying when you're tired sucks. But here's the thing, this is where the gap gets created. Not when everyone's motivated, not at the beginning of the semester, not after watching a productivity video. The gap gets created right here. When one student says, I'm tired, and another says, me too, let's do it anyway. So, how do you become the second student? Well, the answer is actually not what most people think. Because the first thing I realized in college was this. Most of us aren't actually tired. We're something else. When I first came to college, I thought I had reached my limit. I thought, bro, I literally can't do this anymore. Then something weird happened. Over time, my workload almost tripled. More classes, more projects, more responsibilities, more studying, and somehow I handle it. Which made me realize something. Most people don't know what tired means. They use one word to describe 5 completely different problems. And if you don't know which one you're facing, you're using the wrong solution. Which is exactly why most productivity advice does not work. So before I tell you how to study when you're tired, you need to first figure out what type of tired you actually are. And trust me, one of these categories has to fit you perfectly. Let's start with the biggest one, the one almost every student experiences. You've had a ridiculously hectic day. Classes, labs, assignment, running around campus, talking to people, standing in line, solving problems, just non-stop activity. By evening you feel dead. Most students respond the same way. They lie on their bed, they open Instagram, they open YouTube and somehow become even more tired. Which is weird, because resting should make you feel better, right? Except here's what I found. The solution isn't rest, it's intensity. And I know that sounds insane. But whenever this happens to me, I go to the gym. Heavy weights, loud music, aggressive workout. Sometimes a run, sometimes skipping. Anything intense, and almost every time I come back with more energy than I left. Sounds completely backwards, but it works. The problem wasn't low energy. The problem was that my body was stuck. You need to shock yourself out of that state. But then I noticed something. Sometimes that solution made things even worse. Which led me to another realization. Not all tiredness is same. Sometimes I would try the gym trick, but instead of feeling energized, I felt horrible. And that's when I realized I wasn't strain tired, I was physically tired. Big difference, believe it or not. This is when your body genuinely hurts. You've exhausted yourself physically already. Maybe sports, maybe travel, maybe a brutal workout. Maybe you've barely slept. In that case, gym is the worst thing that you can do. What you need is comfort. Just lie down, turn on the AC, get comfortable, stop moving, don't talk, don't scroll. Just recover. And then study from the most comfortable position possible. Because your body, not your brain, is the bottleneck here. But then I ran into another problem. Sometimes my body felt fine, yet I still could not focus. This one is the type that no one talks about. And this one is dangerous, I swear to God. Because it doesn't feel like tiredness, it feels like laziness. But it isn't. Sometimes you're sad, sometimes you're angry, sometimes you're overwhelmed. And your brain labels all of that as I am tired. When really, you're just emotionally exhausted. After all, you're a human being. And the fix is completely different. If you're sad, talk to your friends, do some stupid banter, do some bullshit, go fuck around the campus, make jokes, give people fist bumps. Trust me, it helps a lot. Laugh. If you're angry, go and lift. If you're overwhelmed, take out the notebook, write everything which comes into your mind. Every thought, every worry, every task, get it out of your head. Because you can't study when your brain is trying to solve 20 other problems. And honestly, this was one of the biggest mistakes I made. For years, I thought I need more discipline. What I really needed was less mental noise. But there's one category that's even harder than this: mental tiredness. This is when you've been thinking all day, coding, problem solving, assignments, studying, planning. Your brain is simply cooked. And most students respond by forcing themselves harder. Bad idea. Try to push, even if you try hard as even if you try as hard as possible to cram and push everything into your brain, just isn't gonna work. Instead, what I would recommend is lower the difficulty. Study something easier, switch subjects, take frequent breaks, meditate, massage your head, put some oil in your hair. Sounds like grandma advice, no? It works ridiculously well. Because now you're not trying to force performance, you're trying to restore focus. But what if none of these solutions work? What if you're just sitting there right now and you still can't start? This is where the most important trick comes in. Never tell yourself that I'm gonna study for 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours. Your brain hates that. Instead, tell yourself, open the laptop. That's it. Once that's done, open the notes, then read one page, then read another. That's it. No pressure, no expectations. And something weird happens. Momentum takes over, and something weird happens. Momentum takes over. I've lost count of how many times I just prepared to study for 10 minutes and ended up studying for 2 hours. Because starting is the hardest part, not continuing. And that's something most students completely misunderstand. They think motivation creates action, but in the real life, action is what creates motivation. But if you're genuinely sick, just sleep. Seriously. Take your medicine, go to bed. This is not a motivational speech. One night of studying is not worth turning one day of illness into a week of illness. Now, before someone says, bro, what's the best solution? Sleep. Obviously. Sleep beats every productivity hack on earth. This video isn't for normal days. It's for those rare days when the exam is tomorrow, the deadline is tonight, and studying isn't optional. On those days, don't ask, how do I study when I'm tired? Ask, what type of tired am I? Because the answer to that question determines everything. Because the students who go ahead aren't the ones who never feel tired. They're the ones who know exactly what to do when they are. If you like this video, watch this next one. I'll see you there. Bye.